Hello and welcome. You're watching the Truth Report on Truth Nigeria TV. The headlines. In a major military operation, Nigeria deploys an elite brigade to confront a deadly terrorist group aiming to restore order and push back against militant violence. Amid rising violence, Benue State in north-central Nigeria steps up with a new security force determined to counter the growing threat of Fulani militia attacks. And as the political climate in the U.S. shifts, Nigerians are expressing renewed optimism over the return of a Trump administration, hoping for a more favorable stance toward Nigeria. In a bold move to counter the growing threat of the Lakurawa sect, Nigeria's military has deployed a special operations brigade to the country's northwest, marking a key shift in strategy. The deployment, ordered by General Christopher Musa, Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, was announced on December 13, 2024, in response to the expanding reach of the Lakurawa group. The militants are pushing to establish an Islamic caliphate stretching from the Sahel to the coast of Ghana, a move that poses a serious threat to regional stability. Lakurawa, described by experts as a sophisticated network with transnational ambitions, is reportedly drawing fighters from across the region, including Mali, Libya, Niger and Burkina Faso. As their influence grows in Nigeria's Kebbi and Sokoto states, security analysts are raising alarms about the group's ability to exploit local grievances and economic hardships to recruit young fighters. The group has been setting up shadow governments in remote villages and enforcing strict hardline interpretations of Islamic law. This expansion is fueling fears of a wider caliphate forming in West Africa, which could create a dangerous corridor for terrorism, posing a direct threat to both U.S. interests and regional allies. U.S. intelligence sources have already flagged potential ties between Lakurawa and other terrorist groups operating throughout the Sahel region, including those with global terror connections. And Benue State, located in Nigeria's volatile north-central region, has been battling a relentless wave of violence at the hands of Fulani ethnic militia. In response, the state governor Hyacinth Alia has introduced a new security force, the Benue State Civil Protection Guards, aimed at curbing the kidnappings, killings and terrorist attacks that have devastated local communities. Governor Alia, a former Catholic priest, has faced sharp criticism over his handling of a security crisis which has seen thousands killed and over 2 million displaced in recent years. These attacks have been primarily blamed on the Fulani militia, a group responsible for some of the worst violence in the region. The state, which is predominantly Christian with as many as 80 to 90% Roman Catholics, has been under siege. In an exclusive interview with Truth Nigeria TV, Reverend Father Remigius Iyola, coordinator of the Foundation for Justice, Peace and Development and Catholic chaplain at Benue State University, provided chilling insights into the scale of the attacks. Reverend Iyola revealed that the Fulani militia has not only caused immense loss of life, but has also engaged in widespread land grabbing, leaving entire communities displaced and vulnerable. Truth Nigeria TV correspondent Olikita Ekani files this report on the new security outfit from Benue State. Over the past year, Benue State in north-central Nigeria has been plagued by relentless killings. A report from Amnesty International released in the first quarter of 2024 reveals that between January 2023 and February 2024, more than 2,600 people, mostly women and children, were murdered in over 50 communities. This alarming rise in violence has prompted the state governor's new response, the launch of a civil security outfit to be known as Benue State Civil Security Protection Guards. This intervention by Governor Hyacinth Alia, a former Roman Catholic priest, marks a significant shift in his administration, which has come under heavy criticism for his inaction against armed Fulani militants responsible for the killings, kidnapping and assault of residents. The Benue State Guard consists of 5,000 personnel and is equipped with 100 Toyota Hilux vans and 600 special combatant motorcycles. The unveiling ceremony was held at IBB Square in the state capital Makurdi with a number of dignitaries in attendance. Governor Aliya believes the security outfit will greatly assist in safeguarding the lives and property of Benue people, which is the topmost priority in his administration.
Benue State Civil Protection Guards is established by law to complement the efforts of conventional security apparatuses in the state by way of synergizing and comparing notes on security challenges and adapting global best practices in tackling them. As we all know, for any society to progress, security must be prioritized. The stability of a community forms the bedrock for meaningful and sustainable development.
Despite the governor's intervention, some residents of Benue believe the launch of the security outfit could be an attempt to gain public praise rather than address the core issues.
In terms of security, it's not doing anything. Distributing vehicle yesterday is not what we are expecting. It should do more of it. It should be proactive. It's not when they keep people finish that we can begin to say he distributed vehicle. Unlike other previous governors, Fulani and Otom, their own deficiency is not on the side of security, but in this earlier administration, he doesn't take security for as anything. Even when he heard that Fulani attack here or Hesme attack here, he will not say anything, no comment, no action.
A security expert and former deputy chairman of Agatu County also criticized the governor, claiming that he has not done enough to address the growing insecurity in the state.
Since the current governor of Benue State came on board, there has never been a time that the governor publicly or openly condemned the attack of headers against farmers in Benue State. I have not come across any, except for this recent times, yesterday precisely when the governor decided to commission distribution of security vehicles to the security personnel in the state. I believe that will encourage the security to move about the official duty effectively now that they have gotten mobility.
Benue State, comprising 23 counties, has seen 18 of them affected by insecurity, with residents facing ongoing attacks by armed assailants. However, with the launch of a new security outfit, there is hope among the people that the fragile peace and security currently being enjoyed will be sustained. While still talking security, a disturbing new development in Nigeria's ongoing battle against terrorism is raising alarms. Fulani terrorists in Zamfara State have taken their operations to a more dangerous level, now deploying improvised explosive devices, IEDs, a significant shift in their tactics that poses a growing threat to national security. 2 suspected bandits were killed during an IED testing exercise at a camp controlled by notorious extremist leader Bello Turji in Talata Mafara County, Zamfara State. The incident occurred in the villages of Barikin Daji and Danbagudu Hills, where the terrorists were reportedly testing the devices. This tragic event highlights a troubling evolution in the bandits' tactics, now moving beyond traditional violence to employing military-grade explosives. The explosion, attributed to an IED mishap, occurred under the supervision of Dogo Auta, a high-ranking lieutenant of Turji. The shift in strategy signals an increasingly sophisticated approach from groups previously known for their ruthless kidnappings and attacks on civilians. The growing complexity of these operations, combined with the use of explosives, suggests possible links between these groups and larger terrorist networks operating throughout the Sahel region, further complicating the security landscape. Well, let's get an expert perspective on these developments coming out of Nigeria. We're joined now by David Ida Oyinloko, Director and Special Representative for the Africa region at the International Human Rights Commission, Nairobi, Kenya. It's good to have you with us. Now, David, given the potential links between Lakurawa and other terrorist organizations in the Sahel, how critical is it for international intelligence agencies to share information and also collaborate in order to dismantle these networks before they establish a more entrenched presence in West Africa?
From the point of view of collaboration, I would like to answer your question by stating that yes, the time is just about rights and the more developed military and law enforcement of the world, especially the United States sectors in these considerations, to lend some valuable help to third world countries all across Africa. There is need for the military to give support, intelligence gathering support to the African military, train our men and women, area monitoring of geographical expanses, the use of drone, satellite imaging. Those things our military across Africa are lagging way far behind. We need to upgrade our military to such capacities. Okay, you have intelligence gathering functionalities like the use of drone, satellite imaging, and so on and so forth. The actual training of personnel, troops, should not also be ignored. We will welcome the positioning of military personnel on our soil for the purposes of training our people to cope with the challenges of bandits and terrorist organizations all across Africa. We welcome that tremendously. And so we want to plead with the developed economies of this world, the developed military countries, to lend support to African countries in the provision of drones and satellite imaging technology to our militaries to be able to pinpoint where these terrorists assemble, how they train, how they recruit, and to bomb them out of existence, for crying out loud. Yes, there are grounds for collaboration and for support provision. So these are the grounds that I have mentioned. You know, nothing can happen from a distance. It has to happen locally. Okay, so we need these kinds of support for collaboration and all of that. Yeah.
Okay, so how can the Nigerian government address the root causes of recruitment by terrorists, and what role should international partners, including the US, play in addressing these vulnerabilities?
What we are seeing is a willingness on the part of either the children, the child soldiers, or even the youth, because at the end of the day, they bring home food to their families, to their starving families across all northern Nigeria and most parts of the middle belt. Farming is no longer viable. It has become a risky business. So joining a terrorist group, you have protection, you are armed. So they find that attractive. So I don't think they are forced. Then you mentioned the fact of what can international development partners do. International development partners like the US and other organizations or other countries need to support job creation across Africa. The lack of jobs in Africa is responsible not only for the youth joining terrorist gangs and kidnapping gangs, they are also responsible for the mass illegal migration of youth to other parts of Europe, and they become a social problem across those regions. So I want to tell you categorically that this is a hydra-headed problem, okay, and we need to logically look at it and be scientific about the way we look for the solutions to them. Let's not be sentimental or emotional. Let us not be academic. Let us be factual. Okay? Then look at the Nigerian army, for example. For more than 200 million people in the country, the Nigerian army and the Nigerian police combined don't equal up to 700,000 personnel or troops. So how do you police 200 million people or more than 200 million people with less than 700,000 personnel? Then the number of so-called VIPs in Nigeria and dignitaries, all of them have taken a remarkable significant number of this personnel for themselves. The most agile, the most intelligent, the most fit of our personnel, security and police personnel, are attached to big men, so to speak. So who is going to go into the forest and into the bushes to go fight terrorism? So we have only a very limited, very few number of troops that are available to fight terrorism all across Africa, because the VIPs and the dignitaries who cause these problems themselves have taken them to provide them refuge, to shield them from the problem that they have created, leaving the general population vulnerable. So this has to be looked at also without emotion and without sentiment. Look at the figures. The figures don't lie.
Also, we know that the explosion that killed the two suspected bandits during the IED testing exercise underscores the risks of these improvised weapons. Thus, the Nigerian government and military have what it takes to improve efforts and dismantle these groups, their ability to manufacture and deploy such explosives before they cause widespread damage.
We do not have the sufficiency in numbers of the security or law-keeping personnel that we need to effectively police the land or safeguard it. For 200 million people and the expanse of Nigeria, we have less than 500,000 personnel or troops in the army, less than 700 personnel in the army and police combined. What are we talking about? So a lot of things will happen here and there from time to time that will take them by surprise. I will not be surprised if any installation is targeted and attacked by these groups, okay? Because we have a dismal number of persons looking after our security as a country. That is the number one reason. Number two, the ability to manufacture IEDs by terrorist groups and all of that. My dear, this is how the group started in the first place. A terrorist group cannot exist without that capacity. And a serious solution by any serious country would involve a census of all persons who have the knowledge of production of IEDs. And when you begin to talk like this, you are pointing your finger at persons who have worked in the mining industry, who have worked within proximity of industries that legitimately handle explosives. Due to the harsh economic reality on ground, most of those people have been identified and recruited by terrorists and are being paid high incomes to produce and manufacture IEDs. This is why these things happen. And I'm not even mentioning about persons who have experienced being in the armed forces for so many years and are now either retired or we need a census of these scientific experts. And it is easy to do because it is a very controlled environment, a very controlled professional sector. So when we have a census of those people, we can account for them and say, Mr. Man, this is who you are. Where have you been at the time of, or where do you work now? You have been seen with suspicious characters. What and what and what? You can begin to ask them questions. But if there is no policing of that sector or this consideration I'm mentioning, then of course the production of IEDs will go on. Recruitment of IED makers will go on. And the terrorist groups will keep expanding. So this, what can we do? The fundamental solution lies in job creation. Let there be a sufficiency of jobs. Let us explore this cultural sphere of our lives, this cultural endowment of our people, and use the culture of our people to create jobs for them. By the time you do that, the poverty index does not affect that, because no matter what happens, people will go out and have fun. People who work must spend their monies to make themselves feel good. And that is what job creation, that kind of job creation can come into effect all across Africa and minimize these incidences.
All right, David Ida Onyeloku, the Director and Special Representative for the Africa region at the International Human Rights Commission, Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you very much for your time. Now, Christian clerics in North Central, Northwest and Northeast Nigeria are increasingly becoming primary targets of Fulani militants and Boko Haram fighters, a disturbing trend that has escalated in recent years. These religious leaders are routinely kidnapped, killed, enslaved or held captive for extended periods, with some even murdered in cold blood. The attacks have raised serious concerns about the safety of Christian clergy members in parts of northern Nigeria, where both Fulani terrorists and Boko Haram extremists continue to carry out targeted assaults on religious and community leaders, undermining efforts to foster peace and stability. Truth Nigeria TV correspondent Mike James reports on the harrowing account of a Christian chaplain serving with the Nigeria Police Force in Gusau, Zamfara State, who was abducted by these militants alongside his daughter. This incident is just one example of the ongoing violence targeting religious leaders in the region.
Barefoot, blindfolded and shaking, this chilling footage released to the public shows Andrew Issa, the chaplain of All Saints Police Protestant Church, Mopol 42, in Zamfara State, northwest Nigeria, standing beside him, a sight that should stir outrage across the country, is his 13-year-old daughter, Grace Issa, armed with an AK-49 rifle slung over her shoulder as her father begs for help.
Hello, Nigerians. I want to beg of you, I want to beg on our First Lady, the mother of the nation, please come to our aid. She is the Esther of our time. Please come to our aid. Our daughter has been exposed to a lot of maltreatment, a lot of explosive sedation. She don't even know what's supposed to do. My condition is increasing every day. I'm diabetic. Please, I want Nigeria to come to our aid.
Family members of Issa and Grace, desperate for help, speaks to Truth Nigeria TV, sharing their fear and anguish as they appeal to the public for assistance.
The first time they were looking for 50 million. So we talked to them. After 2 weeks, they come back to 10 million. And at the end, we resolved at 6 million. To God be the glory, we have sold some of our property, our fridge, our bikes, our motorcycle, our land to raise this 6 million. When we give them the 6 million, they said the 6 million, after collecting the 6 million, they said it's not enough.
They are making some demand because they have already given them 6 million.
Okay.
So they say they will release him after 2 days. So up to now, we didn't hear anything about him, his return. So they just call again that they need another 6 million from us. They tried in that video that if we didn't bring the money, they will kill him and marry the daughter to them. They will not release her.
Weeks later, Issa is finally released by his captors, but at a heavy cost. The ransom demanded a staggering $14,000 in cash and 4 motorbikes. Despite the large sum paid, his daughter remained in captivity.
So there are one specific one that they wanted, but people did not include it inside. So they are going to release me to go home and bring that one and buy that one and bring. It was on Sunday in the night. And they are going to release me. Let me go and buy that one. I should go and source for money. They must have understood that we have sold everything. That I should go and source money on Mondays. Go and source money on Monday, on Tuesday, because they don't sell it. This Boko Haram, they don't sell it in Gusau. You have to go to Kano, then buy it in Kano. Then on Wednesday, I should bring it to them.
After what seemed like an eternity, Grace Issa, the 13-year-old high school student and the daughter of the police chaplain, is freed. In an exclusive interview with Truth Nigeria TV, she recalled the brutal experience she endured at the hands of her abductors.
No, they flogged my daddy because of they were saying that my daddy not used to tell my mom that he should bring the money. They told my dad that they have the money. My father have the money, but he don't want to tell my mom to bring the money. He was just looking at me, then I turned and slept. Then he woke me up that I must sleep with him. Then I screamed and shouted, and he flocked.
Then the other boy came.
Yes, and saved me.
In a heart-wrenching interview, Issa opened up about the torture, the beating, and the humiliation he suffered with his daughter by his side. A father's nightmare.
Number one, we are not fed. Sometimes they give out twice in a day.
Food.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes once. And well eating. Mostly their food is just rice. Rice and palm oil, then salt. But you have no choice. You just have to eat. You have no choice. You won't die there. You just have to eat. So sometimes they will just give us a very, very small portion of it. I will just look at my daughter. I say to her, if I should share this food together with you now, sometimes we eat this food in the night. She'll be turning. I'll say, what is this? You say hungry. She's hungry.
The abduction of Issa and his daughter is just one example of the growing crisis in northern Nigeria, where kidnapping has become an alarming epidemic. In recent years, armed groups, including Fulani militants and Boko Haram, has terrorized communities, targeting civilians, security personnel, and religious leaders alike. Mike Other James, reporting for Truth Nigeria TV.
As Christmas approaches, Christians in Nigeria are filled with fear and anxiety after a year of violent attacks by militant groups. In Plateau State, where at least 160 people were killed in coordinated assaults last year, communities are bracing for potential violence once again. The deadly attacks, which unfolded on Christmas Eve in 2023, took many by surprise. Despite rumors of an impending assault, there was no solid evidence to confirm the threat. As a result, Christians in the region continued their Christmas preparations as normal, only to be struck by tragedy when suspected Fulani militants launched an attack on 25 villages in a well-coordinated military-style operation. Now, as the holiday season draws near, residents in Benue State, just south of Plateau, are also on edge. Now, despite being predominantly Christian, the state has seen an uptick in militant violence, which has displaced thousands. Many of those displaced are now living in makeshift shelters, leaving them vulnerable to further attacks by armed groups looking to capitalize on the region's instability. We are now joined by Reverend David Ayuba Azaman, the Assistant General Overseer of King's Worship Chapel and Ministry in Kaduna State. Thank you so much for joining us, Reverend. Now, you are somewhat a source of hope and succor to family members and victims of kidnapping. So can you walk us through the process by which family members, of victims in the north can contact your organization, or even you yourself, when someone is attacked or kidnapped? What are the steps, they need to follow to report such incidents, and how does your team respond to these cases?
A 15-year-old girl that was kidnapped in Zaria, Kaduna State. Her auntie called me. She follows me on Facebook. And she got my number and gave me a call. And she said they haven't seen their daughter for a month. But they just discovered that the daughter, 15-year-old girl, they call her Nambam Joshua, was kidnapped by a Muslim youth, a 21-year-old Muslim youth. And she was forcefully Islamized. And she said they tried all what they could, but they couldn't get her released. In fact, she said they have to go to the chief of that village in Zaria. But as if the chief of the village, because he's also a Muslim, they are in agreement. They are like collaborating with the kidnapper. So when they called, I requested for the phone number of the kidnapper, which I called him. I called him and I told him who I am. And I said, Is he married to her? I said in Christianity, we don't give. If he marries her, who did he pay the dowry or bride price? And he became very violent. He began to insult me. I said, okay, I know the channel I will follow. That is this particular one that we are still on. This girl is in Yobe State, Yobe, northeast Nigeria. Her parents didn't see her for 3 months. 3 months. And they just got a letter from the Islamic Council of Yobe State. That means even the government, some of the government in the north are involved. They are involved with this thing because the kidnapping is in two phases. There are kidnappings for ransom. There are kidnappings for forceful Islamization of Christian girls. That is what they do.
You previously mentioned that a community leader may be involved or collaborating with kidnappers in some cases. So how confident are you in this claim? Do you have any concrete, evidence to support it?
The collaboration is when the parents went to him to secure the release of their daughter. What he told them is their daughter is in good hands. She has become a Muslim. They should not worry about their daughter. Can you see that? So that means that is a collaboration. That is a collaboration. Because why is he telling the parents that the daughter is a Muslim? So they should relax. She's in a good hands. She's safe. That is why I said he's also involved.
So when kidnappings occur in northern Nigeria, what immediate actions, should both authorities and families take to facilitate the swift and safe recovery of the victims? How do you coordinate with security agencies during such high pressure situations?
Like the case in Zaria, before the parents contacted me, they went to the securities. They went to the police station in Zaria and they reported the case. But they told me that the police did not do anything. They didn't do anything. So what they did was that to go and get a lawyer where their daughter is, because they know where the daughter is. So they went to get a lawyer. But the lawyer was also charging them 100,000 naira, which is a lot of money. So they didn't get the security agents, the police did not do anything. And the lawyer also is charging so high, they couldn't afford it. That is why they called. The security agencies of Nigeria are not trying, because when they kidnapped about 30-something medical students in Benue State, it was the Nigerian security forces that secured their release. But you see, as I said, the kidnapping is two-faced. That is kidnapping for ransom without religious undertone. That is a kidnapping also that has a religious undertone. Most times, the one that has a religious undertone, this mostly it affects our Christian girls. They make sure they frustrate us, especially if the security men, the police, or the security men are Muslims. They belong to that same religion. They frustrate us. As I told you, a Christian policeman in Yobe State disclosed to me that they have about 38 cases like that in Yobe. 38 cases. And he told me, he's a policeman. He said it's very unfortunate that even his colleagues in the police, in the security agencies, because they share the same religion, Islam, they are frustrating the effort.
All right, we know that misinformation is a significant issue in Nigeria, and it often complicates the situation, as we saw with the Black Christmas attack in Plateau State in 2023. So how can the Nigerian government and local communities improve communication and coordination, to distinguish between misinformation and real security threats?
Most of these attacks sometimes, even the terrorists, they write letters to these villages. We are coming to attack you. There are so many instances that they write letter, we are coming. And these villages, these communities, they always report this attack. It's just that the government don't take it serious. But sometimes they even notify the people we are coming. But because in Nigeria, we are not really proactive. We are only proactive when it has happened. Some of these rumors, as you said, they are real. They are real threats. Because actually what happened in Plateau State, according to the government, there was, but I can't quote anybody verbatim, but there was a rumor, or the government knew that there's going to be an attack, but nothing was done. You see, there was, I believe, the Nigerian security agencies have been infiltrated by these people.
All right, Reverend David Azaman, the Assistant General Overseer of King's Worship Chapel and Ministry, Kaduna State, thank you so much for your insights. Well, we'll be right back with more on the Nigerian Guild of Editors' call for the repeal of anti-media laws and the Nigeria's Supreme Court's $3,500 fine imposed on an ex-presidential candidate for filing a frivolous lawsuit against President Bola Tinubu. Stay with us for these stories and more coming up after the break. Thank you for staying. Now a recap of our major headlines. In a bold move to counter the growing threat of Fulani sects, Nigeria's military has deployed a special operations brigade to the country's northwest, marking a key shift in strategy. The deployment, ordered by General Christopher Musa, Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, was announced on December 13, 2024, in response to the expanding reach of the Fulani group. The militants are pushing to establish an Islamic caliphate stretching from the Sahel to the coast of Ghana, a move that poses a serious threat to regional stability. And in Benue State, located in Nigeria's volatile north-central region, has been battling a relentless wave of violence at the hands of Fulani ethnic militia. In response, the state governor Hyacinth Alia has introduced a new security force, the Benue State Civil Protection Guards, aimed at curbing the kidnappings, killings and terrorist attacks that have devastated local communities. Governor Alia, a former Catholic priest, has faced sharp criticism over his handling of the security crisis, which has seen thousands killed and over 2 million displaced in recent years. These attacks have been primarily blamed on the Fulani militia, a group responsible for some of the worst violence in the region. The election of Donald Trump as the 47th President of the United States of America has sparked mixed reactions among Nigerians. While many are optimistic about his re-election, some analysts warn that his policies could negatively affect Nigeria's economic future. In October 2020, during Trump's first term, Nigeria was placed on the U.S. State Department's country of particular concern list due to ongoing religious freedom violations. However, under President Joe Biden's administration, Nigeria was removed from the Religious Freedom Watch list in November 2021, despite criticism from global human rights groups. Supporters of Trump's return argue that his leadership is vital in the fight against terrorism in Nigeria, while others believe his re-election could strengthen the U.S.-Nigeria partnership fostering positive collaboration in both security and economic development.
Of educational development, in terms of agricultural development, in terms of fighting insecurity, which is bedeviling Nigeria and some other West African countries. Most Nigerians clamored for the victory of Donald Trump, considering the fact that he's already an old hand in the system, and it is easier for people to benefit. You know, our people are those who are in their need of education. In terms of going abroad for studies, it will be further enhanced under a Trump administration. And above all, there are certain things we can benefit. Scholarships for our people, various fellowship opportunities, various ways of enhancing technological development, and so on and so forth. ICT development and other things. And let me make it clear that in parts of Nigeria, especially in the southeast, where people are predominantly Christians, they see the victory of Donald Trump as an opportunity to also break some of those barriers that has to do with the development of their religion, that are inimical to Christianity and some other aspects of the religion that most of the Christians do not want. Be that as it may, the greatest opportunity that we have now is to even go into agriculture, use the victory to run into good partnership, industrial development of Nigeria, and above all, making sure that there is peace, unity, and progress of development of our country.
The Trump coming back to be the president of America is a very good omen to people of Nigeria, especially the Southeast. And we are looking forward that he's going to assist the Southeast and Nigeria in general to address the issue of insecurity. And you know, the majority of our people who are living in diaspora in America voted for him. I'm talking about the Southeasterners because they have the hope that Trump is, as a populist leader, will ensure that the issue of gay marriage, the issue of transgender, and the issue of GMO foods will be totally eradicated and abolished, because it's against the culture, tradition, and norms of the people of the Southeast. And above all, the issue of insecurity has been a bend here, and we know that having an ally with America, as Trump is open to African countries.
The president of America right now may not know who is the Southeasterner or where do they come from, but he knows Nigeria as a republic, and he knows that Nigeria is part of the countries in Africa. So if I could say, Africa supported, Nigeria in particular, played a very big role to see that Trump emerges victorious. When you come into Nigeria, you now know that the Southeasterners, majorly the Igbo-speaking communities, many of them lived in USA, and many of them participated during Trump's campaign movement. And from there, we can understand that Nigeria as a country loves the coming back of Donald Trump, because when Donald Trump was there before, he had a very good relationship with blacks. He never cheated blacks. He worked with the blacks, and some international business links he has with the black nations all over the world.
We in Africa, most especially in Nigeria, we believe Donald J. Trump is the only president that can make our dreams into reality. He has made a lot of promises during his campaign to different parts of the world, most especially the people that are suffering from ills of democracy. Donald J. Trump is a promising candidate that he defied all odds to become an American president. Donald J. Trump is a symbol of strength to upcoming nations that are struggling for justice. We here in Africa, as Nigeria, the most black populous nation, we believe in some philosophy and principles as a leader. As a world leader, we pray and hope that Donald J. Trump will assist Nigeria in fighting corruption, in fighting injustice, in fighting illegal immigration, and to free the common person.
And the Nigerian Guild of Editors has raised the alarm over the growing number of anti-media laws in the country. In a statement released earlier this week, the Guild's General Secretary, Iyobosa Owugaren, confirmed that the union has formed a special committee to engage with key government officials, including the National Assembly and the Federal Ministry of Information, to address the issue. A statement by the group reads, "We are deeply concerned about the detrimental impact of these oppressive laws. Many of these laws, some dating back to the colonial era, remain in force today and are undermining transparency and accountability within the government." The Guild's statement highlights that anti-media laws severely limit journalists' ability to hold those in power accountable, fostering an environment where corruption and abuse of power can thrive unchecked. These laws, the Guild warns, threaten the fundamental right to free speech and curtail Nigerians' ability to engage in open public discourse. In response, the Guild has launched a 5-member committee tasked with working directly with key government bodies, including the Ministry of Information, the National Assembly, the Attorney General of the Federation, and the Ministry of Justice. The goal of the committee is to push for amendments or ideally the repeal of these laws, which many see as a significant barrier to a free and open press in the country. And in a significant legal development in Nigeria, the country's Supreme Court has fined former presidential candidate Ambrose Owuru for filing a frivolous and vexatious lawsuit against President Bola Tinubu. Owuru, a lawyer who ran against former President Muhammadu Buhari in the 2019 election on the platform of the Hope Democratic Party, was ordered to pay over $3,500 to the president. Justice Wani Musa Abaji, who presided over the case, criticized Owuru for his behavior, dismissing his suit seeking the removal of President Tinubu from office. The court ruled that Owuru's actions were unbecoming of a lawyer with more than 40 years of experience. Additionally, the court instructed the registry to reject any further lawsuits originating from Owuru that were deemed frivolous. In the end, the court ruled against Owuru and imposed the $3,500 fine, closing the case with a firm rebuke of his legal conduct. And in a concerning update for Nigerians gearing up for Christmas and New Year celebrations, the latest figure from the country's National Bureau of Statistics paints a grim picture. The country's inflation rate climbed to 34.6% in November 2024, up from 33.88% in October, marking a 0.72% increase. This rise has put in added pressure on Nigerians already struggling with the cost of living, particularly as they prepare for the holiday season. Food inflation, a major concern for the majority of the population, has surged dramatically, reaching 39.93% year-on-year compared to 32.84% in November 2023. Prices for key staples such as rice, yam, maize, and vegetable oils have seen steep increases, making it even harder for families to manage daily expenses. As these economic pressures mount, experts are calling on the government to implement urgent policy measures to stabilize prices and alleviate the growing hardships faced by Nigerians.
The critical thing that needs to be done in ensuring that we curb the consistent hike in inflation, as we have seen with that of November, is already some of the actions and measures is what the central bank is already implementing, particularly around increasing the interest rates, which is key to bringing down inflation rates, as well as also mopping out excessive cash. You would recall that at a point in time, as a result of the economic challenge, there was the excessive application of the ways and means, practically printing of a lot of money and all of that. And so there's so much money in circulation that it will take so much time before that can be checked, as well as also ensuring that there is an alignment and better coordination between fiscal and monetary policy, because despite all the monetary policy interventions by the central bank, we still see that from the fiscal side, there is a lot of expenditure that is happening in that regard. And we need to see increase in terms of the cash reserve ratio. That is key. If that would also, it will also help in really curbing the inflation rate. But like I said, it's beyond the central bank, because if you look at the biggest contributor to the inflation rate is actually food inflation, and that is as a result of a lot of structural issues, as well as issues of insecurity that has led to the cost of production to be on the high side. So we need to see that very strong coordination between fiscal and monetary policy implementation. One of the things that we have seen that has happened is that as a result of floating the Naira has become a bit volatile, and that is why we had seen the spike in terms of the devaluation of the Naira, and at a point in time it was almost hitting 2,000 Naira, but thankfully we have seen it stabilize over time, and it's as a result of some of the aggressive monetary policy that is being implemented, but more so its contribution to high inflation rates, because we have seen energy cost also contribute to that, and it has far reduced the purchasing power of many Nigerians as regards of that. So like I had said earlier on, stabilizing this will require a mixture of both the policy and physical adjustments in terms of also our trade policy, price control, as well as investment in critical sectors. And one of such sector is the agricultural sector, like we had highlighted earlier on, because if you're able to reduce cost of agricultural products, you automatically reduce our high inflation rates. And another driver is the issue of high energy cost. If you are able to reduce the cost of energy, then it means that transportation costs will also drastically reduce, which will also have an impact on inflation, as well as the cost of running businesses. But also we need to also understand that there are global dynamics to these issues, because Nigeria is a high consumption country. So the more we import products, when there is also inflation in those countries, it also reflects here in Nigeria. So it means that government needs to do more in implementing agricultural policies and programs that would really energize the country, as well as also invest more in ensuring that the enabling environment is there for we have seen the number of times that the power stations have collapsed, as well as also the challenges around the refineries that are upcoming and all of that. When these things are able to be addressed within the shortest time, it will have direct impact on the inflationary rate and also boost economic activities as it is.
Well, that's all for this bulletin. Thanks for joining us. I am Mary Kanu. We'll see you next time.